Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's a great privilege to be participating in this panel as a moderator. We're very lucky to have wonderful guests. I particularly want to thank Mike right here because we were supposed to have Ben from Cadiz Football Club that was with us, but unfortunately he could not make it. So I saw Mike walking on the street and I would you like to do this? And he was okay with it. So thank you very much for that. No, really appreciate it, Mike. I guess that the whole idea behind this panel and what we could basically learn about building global football clubs, we've been seeing it at Nolan Partners. We're an executive search firm, so we do talk with CEO, presidents of the different clubs, and it's always really interesting to get their take on their view, their business, their culture, but also their league. And we're extremely privileged to have all of you for today. So I guess that the idea is to go directly with the questions, and I wanted to start with you, Guido, being in your city also. One of the things that we've been seeing is that today Al Nassr is one of the biggest clubs in the Saudi Pro League. You have a team where you've been able to recruit top superstars. So continue its growth, and on what specific side of the club would you continue building what you have been already doing?
Okay. First, thanks for the invitation and thanks for all the audience to stay here. Nassr is an interesting project because everyone knew about Nassr because of Cristiano, when Cristiano arrived outside of the kingdom. Before Cristiano arrived, obviously Nassr had a long tradition, almost 70 years, in which he established and consolidated his role of being one of the top club in the kingdom. And then with Cristiano, it made a jump. So internationally, became now the 15th club, more followed the world, just if we consider the official social media number, just on Instagram, we are the 11th club. And everyone said, yes, but this is just thanks to Cristiano. When Cristiano will shut down, you will go down from where we start. This is the challenge, obviously, for not making this happen. And the plan basically is based on the organization. But it's based on the organization, every plan of the club. If you want to consolidate every step forward, you need to improve the organization and the standard of the organization to the step forward. You can buy player, put in the pitch in 24 hours. But trust me, to build a team, a consistent team, you need to have an organization that starts from the scouting, the performance. And this is exactly what we are doing now. We are building a strong organization, mixing skills, local skills with international skills, and creating an ecosystem that will be a legacy. First of all, to win. I never see a team winning without a strong organization on the back. Sometimes someone can be lucky with a lower stage of development to win, but a really rare opportunity. Normally, who wins is the one better organized. Not necessarily the most rich, but for sure is the better organized. So the organization, the legacy is the first things. And if I had to think in the long term, this is even more true because the organization needs to develop the local talent. The difference in this championship, the jump has been done with the international player, but the difference between the club is done by the local player.
Very true.
Because more or less we are all with the good player, international player. The difference are the local ones. And again, Organization means exactly this, to scout the best talent when they are younger, to develop the talent, to support the growth, to support even mental growth in all the aspects. And this goes in parallel with the project of this country, because now quite actual the fact that in 10 years this country had to host the World Cup, but that is not just hosting the World Cup, it's also performing in the World Cup. So we feel the responsibility to do that. So we strongly believe that with our plan and with the investment that we are doing in building the best organization, the level of a club like Al Nassr would be consolidated in 5 years to be top-tier club in the world.
That's amazing. Thank you for that answer. And I want to jump on this with you, James, actually. In your perspective and with the different experience you've had, what does it mean to build a global club?
Thank you. And yeah, good afternoon from my side, and thanks everyone for being here and for the World Football Summit to organize this opportunity and sit with such a great panel as well. So we at Al Qadsiya Club, we're going through a transformation actually at the moment. We're a club with a fantastic history. We're nearly 60 years old, and we had a lot of success in the 90s. We won domestic cups, AFC cups. But in 2023, really the club was reborn, because Al Qadsiya was one of the clubs that, after the PIF clubs and the likes of Al Nassr, was privatized and was under then the ownership of Aramco. And quickly we were able to establish on the technical side a team that allows us to be promoted to the Saudi Pro League. But really, Guido's spoken there about organization, and we believe in this as well, the importance of it. And aligned to that, we also believe in the importance of the strategy. And this is what we're putting in place at the moment, is the strategic pillars that will allow us to grow and develop, not just this season, but in 10 years' time. And again, we're very fortunate because we are developing a new stadium. So when we think about the match day experience, we've got a new stadium that will be open 2026, 2027. We'll be able to take that to another level. But very briefly, the focuses of the strategy that we've developed are related to sporting performance. So of course, winning games, winning competitions, hopefully competing at an AFC perspective. Again, talent development, particularly young Saudi players, developing them and giving them a pathway to the first team. So we're expanding our academy and modeling that on maybe some of the academies you'd see, for example, in the Premier League or in the European markets. Financial and commercial success. We were really fortunate to have the backing of the owners that we have. But our plan is to become financially sustainable. And this means we need to grow all of our commercial pillars, our different commercial and revenue opportunities, and then being true to the community. We are based in Al Khobar in the Eastern Province. If you haven't been there, we invite you to come to Al Khobar and see a game and be with us. So this is really important to us, to connect with this community. And the fifth pillar that we talk about is the fan engagement. So re-engaging with a fan base in the Eastern Province, but also developing ways that we can reach new supporters. So this is what we're putting in place at the moment.
Yeah, that's going to be part of the next question.
So I jumped ahead on these different pillars.
I don't want to interrupt you.
So that we can take the steps forward in a phased way and also be accountable in terms of what we achieve as each step progresses.
Amazing, thank you for that. Going on to one specific area, which is the marketing with you, Mike. When you arrived at Juventus, where was the Juventus in terms of marketing strategy? Where did it want to go, and where is it now?
Sure. Well, thanks again. I feel like I'm the party crasher.
No, actually, you're the party saver.
But I guess it's interesting that we're sitting beside one another because I joined Juventus September 1st, 2021, which was the exact day after Ronaldo left the club. And there was a kind of poetic, connection with that, because the ask of me was help with internationalization, growing international relevance, and help build a commercial area that's less reliant on players and performance. So it dovetails perfectly with what Guido was speaking about. And so the ask of me was how do you build internationalization that's not solely reliant on star players, because they're the core of the business, but they do come and go. Yeah. And then how can you build elements of a commercial area that weren't, say, presently in place or needed to be tuned, so that in more the midterm we could be stronger and again less reliant on players and performance. And that doesn't mean that we don't want to win, but it means that we're in a game that sometimes you don't win, and so you have to plan for good cycles and bad cycles. And so we're on that journey. Juventus continues to have aspirations for international growth. In the past few years, we've focused a lot on, I'd say, media and media distribution strategies, because if you look at our fan base, digitally, we're on social media, 180 million, 94% outside of Italy, almost 40% under 24. And that audience is really scattered and very dispersed all over the world, different ages, different languages. And so we spend a lot of time looking at, are we telling the right stories? Are we distributing content? Are we connecting with the world in a most efficient way? And so we've launched Juventus Creator Lab, a new content production area, new distribution strategies to help with that. We've built an innovation department to help look at how we can come up with new monetization schemes and opportunities for the club, and really invested a lot of time on knowing our fans more, and so understanding maybe not as sexy stuff, but like having a data lake and a CRM and a CDP, and like better understanding your fans on a one-to-one basis, to understand their needs and so that you can service them more, but then also help sponsors, partners, and those that you work with. So the journey never ends, as I'm sure it's the same with you guys, and we're continuing to push ahead.
Thank you so much, Mike. Abhik, now to you. What are the challenges in the Indian Super League that you have for a club such as yours?
Good afternoon, everybody, and my co-panelist, and thank you to WFS for having me over. The Indian Super League is now in its 11th season. It's a very nascent league, and India is a country for cricket. Football is a sport that we aspire to make the best second choice at the moment, if you're speaking realistically. If you look at it from a challenge perspective, in the Indian Super League, I think the main challenge for the clubs is to be completely sustainable. Because when the Indian Super League was started, obviously it needed a lot of financial resources to get it off the ground, and there was considerable investment made in the early stages. And now really the challenge is to recover that and also make the club sustainable, so that there are innovative methods that all the clubs are putting into place. The focus in the first 10 years or so was to get the fundamentals right. By fundamentals, I mean, get right people into the club, try and focus on what your philosophy is, how your youth development system works. And now I think the next 10 years or so will be spent in trying to create more innovative methods so that the clubs can now start benefiting from the fan bases that they have established. The second challenge would be infrastructure, because in India, usually the football stadiums are meant to be multi-purpose stadiums, so then there are no football-specific stadiums. And I think it is very important for the country to move forward in this aspect, and that's where we need, government backing and people with a keen eye for infrastructure development in the private sector as well, to recognize this and also assist a lot of the clubs in developing infrastructure that will then enable clubs to monetize it and for fans to have a much better experience. And finally, I would think the greatest challenge within the country at the moment and within the Indian Super League is how to make youth development effective. When the league was started, we sort of looked at it from a top-down approach, because obviously when you start a new league, the focus is on marketing. How do you make it more attractive? How do you bring in stars so that people, they find glamour, and how do you attract new fans? But at the same time, the fundamentals will never change in football. And now a lot of the clubs have started to recognize that if you have a proper youth development system, more often than not, you don't need to go out and buy a lot of players. And at Kerala Blasters, for example, just last year we had 5 or 6 of our players from the reserve team graduate to the first team, and like proper first team. And I think we're one of the best in the country in terms of creating a pipeline where talent progresses from the underage groups to the reserve team. And this has been work that has been done in the last 5 years or so. But we want to improve, we want to learn new things and also make it more robust, not just for us, but for the country as a whole, because India aspires to be at least ranked well within Asia first and then have global aspirations. But that will only happen when 3 of these, at least, challenges that we speak about are resolved in the next decade or so.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Abhik. I think that the next question for you, Guido, is very similar. I'd love to understand what are some of the challenges you have been facing and how did you act to resolve them?
When you start a transformation, obviously, challenges are many, because you face resistance, you face new things to improve. But basically, everything can be reported to accept the fact that we are moving from a way of doing football that is very short term. So if I have the money, I buy the player and I hope to win, basically. But this is not an industrial cycle. Who have more money, bought more players, and probably win. To a way of doing football that is an ecosystem, that is an industrial cycle, that is a more long-term vision, that is the victory comes as a consequence of a process that passed through, what I said before, an organization, but passed through the generation of value, so monetization, contents, the transformation of a football club in a media company, because at the end, what the football club produces, apart the show, but the reality is that the production that we're talking about is a production of emotion. And if you want to monetize the emotion, you need to transform this emotion in a product that obviously is a content, and then distribute and package the content as the fans want to receive, where they want to receive. For example, our fan base is 96% international fan base, like more or less Juventus. So you need to stay close and you need to bring the emotion close to the fans where they are, and not just in the match. Yeah. All the week, because this is not just a 90-minute business. This is a 24/7 business, and every fans are like this. So our challenge is to transform this. And the resistance, obviously, is the fans want to win tomorrow. And they are right, because the fans want to win tomorrow. So it's a journey. We need to explain that we want the same thing, but we are doing 2 different jobs. The fans have to do the fans, make pressure on the management, and we have to use this pressure to create the best solution and the best process to be consistent in creating value and to transform this value in winning capacity. And then at the end, we will win. Who do better will win something. We win a lot. Juventus won a lot. And then now is restarting this process. Well, not even too much for me.
You're just saying this because you were in Roma before.
I have the ice room memory that come up. Sometime I have to say something.
We're suffering now if it makes you feel better.
Let's say that you are the Lalla of Italy, so the one that win even when they don't deserve. But apart, apart this joke, is this the challenge? Is to move from a pure short-term logic to an industrial approach, an industrial cycle that has lots of components. But if we do this in 5 years' time, even not 10, 5 years' time, the Saudi Pro League will be at the same level of the top league. No one can say should be the next bubble. No, because there is the value inside.
And I think it's also going to help the national team for potentially
Obviously.
World Cup 2024.
National team is strong if the league is strong,
Absolutely.
always. So if the league is strong, we'll support the national team. This is a fact.
I want to come back on that with you. It was really bringing emotions to the fan. And I'd love to understand what you also in Juventus have been facing and the challenges and how do you try to obtain this goal of bringing those emotions to the fans. Tell us a bit about this journey.
Yeah, I guess from a macro perspective, like one of them is just mindset change. Because, I mean, I'm naive because I'm new to football. And so that brings blind spots, which are negative. And it also maybe brings some good things too. And so I think there's a lot of, like, we've tried that before and it doesn't work. Or we can't do it a different way when actually you can. And similarly, I see us as in the media entertainment space. And if you look at Juventus in the media entertainment space, you actually have to be extremely humble because we're tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny if you look at the media entertainment space. And so if you're not trying new things when you're trying to compete for attention in a massive entertainment space, then really what are you doing? And so I push with my team and have pushed with the organization a lot on how can we change mindset to experiment and to innovate, because although we might be considered by some as a big football club, in terms of the media and entertainment world, we're no different from gaming or influencers or whatever any of you do in your spare time. And so we have to compete for that space. And so I'd say like one macro challenge is just like change mindset. We have to innovate. The other is absolutely short and long term. It's a tough business, and you know it better than me. But I mean, you're constantly getting pressure to win in the short term, and that has financial implications. And then also you need to build a commercial business that's going to work in the mid to long term. And so that trade-off on investing in the now and then investing in the future is not an easy thing for clubs, especially clubs that aren't financially or economically sustainable, because often that pressures you into a short-term choice. And so I'd say short and long term are always a challenge. Those are probably the two biggest ones. The third would be focus, I guess. So we're blessed that we have lots of opportunities. And so Juventus has lots of, my team gets approached all the time with tons of opportunities. Sometimes saying no is actually the absolute best thing that we can do, because we need to focus the limited resources and time that aren't mine, that are the companies and the shareholders, on how we can turn the most efficient investment on that time and money as possible. And so we often struggle with focus in terms of growth because maybe we have too many good opportunities to go down, and then basically we spread ourselves too thin. And so I'd rather focus on fewer things that are really going to have measurable impact, that's going to deliver back against our multi-year plan. And so I'd say focus is like another challenge that sometimes we can get lost on, and we have to bring ourselves back to what's going to have the most really impact, which means like often I need to be a bad guy. That's just no.
I think that pretty much everyone has to be a bad guy. Talking about that, James, you had experience in a different championship before. If I'm talking more recently, you were in Glasgow. You came to Al Qadsiya, which is a completely different championship. You had experience in the region previously. Can you tell us a little bit about those challenges? We've been talking about the difference you saw between a club like Glasgow, that's a historical club, and Al Qadsiya, which is a younger club with a brand new project that you're leading today.
Yeah, absolutely. So my previous club was Glasgow Rangers. There's another club in Glasgow, but I should have been to them.
Yeah, we're not going to mention them.
On the blue side. So look, I think what's evident is that every club, sports organisation, company is at a different stage of its journey, of its evolution. And as I said, Al Qadsiya is now at the start, I think, of a new journey. after it's been privatized, the strategy that I touched on and where we want to get to. And I came from a club that, to be honest, is an institution. It's 150 years old, very established in its stadium that's over 100 years old, the training ground, the processes, very, very established. So, and my previous experience was with the Champions League and the Europa League on the commercial side. So again, within Europe, the two, I think, biggest club competitions that there are. So what we're trying to build now at Al Qadsiya is a plan for the next 10 years, and we're trying to take the steps in the right way with a strategic focus. And as Guido said, in football, nobody wants to wait. We're a newly promoted team. We're on a good run of games, but we said we have to, of course, stay humble and recognize where we are, the investment that's been in the squad. We're playing a stadium at the moment that is a Ministry of Sports stadium. It's not the club stadium, and we share it with another team in the Saudi Pro League. So again, we have limitations that we have to work within in the short term, but we see the opportunity. And we were talking earlier among the clubs in terms of the importance of media rights, the competitiveness of the league, and these are all things that Al Qadsiya wants to contribute to. So I think for me, in summary, it's about taking the right steps at this part of our journey, but also drawing on some of the previous experiences that I've had along the way in football.
Yeah, and it's really about managing kind of the expectations, because with a new project and the type of investment that Al Qadsiya is doing, obviously the fan expect you to probably win the league within the next 2 years. So it's also being able to move forward in a project and at the same time continue growing in a sustainable and a stable way, the club, and being able to kind of manage expectations. I believe so.
Absolutely. And I think from a sporting point of view, and our technical director, Carlos Anton's here, he's responsible for the team that we've built. But as I said previously, a lot of our emphasis is on the youth development. We believe so strongly in this within Saudi Arabia because of the academy that we're developing here, the pathway to the first team, but also in terms of international players. Our strategy within recruitment is very specific in one of the strands around emerging talent, is bringing players from other leagues that we believe have a chance to make it to our first team within our football ecosystem, within the development pathway that we put them on. And we're very fortunate that we've got a coach that buys into that. You were talking about the number of academy players making it to the first team. So this is also what we believe is the right methodology from a football point of view, but it requires the patience to see the results that I think all supporters and all owners want to see from their clubs.
Absolutely. What about you, Abhik? We understand that all those challenges are important to be able to continue growing the club, but in terms of like the subject of today's panels is lessons of the front lines. What does it mean to be a top club today in a young league like the Indian Super League?
I think within the Indian Super League, I think what Kerala Blasters is known for is its very, very passionate fan base. And within a short space of time, we possibly have the largest digital imprint within the league, very comparable to a few of the cricket teams playing in the Indian Premier League. And also we do have, I believe, the most engaged fan base in the entire league. And it's always a privilege when you have that, and things are a lot easier to implement, and you can experiment a bit more when you have that willingness from the fans. We have fans who travel almost 25 hours by road to come and watch a game. And we've put that in the dressing room, 25 hours and 36 minutes. That's the time it takes for a fan to travel possibly from the furthest tip of Kerala to come to the stadium and watch the game in the heart of the state. So I think the main approach that we have is how do we reward this fan base for giving us all this attention and all this love. And it's very clear there are two ways. One is to win. We've been runners-up 3 times. Never won the league as such, but very fine margins.
Not yet.
Not yet. But the fan base wants it, and like you guys said, they want to win it tomorrow. But obviously, as a club, we have to measure that against what our philosophy is. And sometimes it's not as instantaneous as that, because within the league, obviously, we've got a few clubs who are top spenders. We're possibly not the top spender in the league, but we believe in a very balanced approach where we do spend where we need to, but we also want to give an opportunity to local talent to come and feature for the club, because it means so much for them. And I was just speaking to somebody the other day. We've had one of our ball boys, eventually 5 years down the line, he's starting for us in goal. So that's, that's a story within India, within the Indian ecosystem, which is very special, obviously, because the top leagues in the world, they've been around for so much longer. And stories like these are very common there, but within India, it's something special to see that happen. And also, I believe we are possibly the club that attracts the best commercial interest. Our jersey is always full, thankfully. But that also gives us an opportunity to pick and choose what we believe conforms with what our philosophy is. And we're very, very picky about, the brands that are on board with us, because we want them to share a similar philosophy, and we want the fans to also benefit from some of our collaborations. And finally, we're venturing into a new space within the Indian ecosystem. We have an offshoot, which is called the House of KBFC, House of Kerala Blasters, where we're trying to innovate in consumable products like snacks, etc., which are obviously branded with the club's player images, etc., and try and see how that permeates the market, and whether we can catch a young audience, and whether we can go beyond the normal jersey sales or the normal ticket sales and everything that's common in football, but to see that we create a new brand category within the Indian ecosystem, and this is pretty new for football in India.
That's great.
So these are some of the initiatives that we are undertaking, but obviously at the end of it, I would trade a lot of it for winning the league, but hopefully that also happens in due course of time.
Yeah, very, very soon. But all those opportunities, you're saying that today it's important to be able to choose, and I think that what's going to make a difference is the ones more that you're going to pass than the ones you're going to say yes to.
Yeah.
And that's one of the toughest choices you as a CEO always have to make. Guido, I wanted to come back with you, and I wanted to project myself a little bit further down the line. So where do you see, and what are the changes you want to bring to a club like Al Nassr in the next 5 to 10 years? And where do you see that, and how is it going to benefit the league? We talked about the national team. I believe it's one of the things that is going to help, especially for the World Cup. But what are the changes you want to bring in the next 5 years?
Okay, personally speaking, 10 years for me, it's even too long.
Okay, let's say 5. 3 to 5. You see, I'm already negotiating.
If I survive, I would be happy and proud to leave a legacy. So a club that will continue to grow independently by the presence of myself or Fernando international, but because we create an environment that develop talent, not just in the pitch, but also in the management team, in the commercial team, and consolidate the value of the club everywhere in the world. You need to consider that just in 1 year and a half, SPL became the second product between the domestic leagues after Premier League. In a vast region that goes from northern and eastern African countries, the first in the whole Middle East, and in large part of Asia. So there are almost 4 billion people that every weekend they are showing an interest after Premier League on SPL. If you think 2-3 years ago, this is already a revolution. So there is a new product that position in the market in a position that before was Serie A, La Liga, and now there is a SPL, 4 billion people. Now, to consolidate this interest, and Nasser, that is the ambassador of this interest, because with all the respect of the other, is the one that engaged the most international audience as a Saudi club. And we don't want to be the only one. We want to bring, obviously, all the other one, except one.
I don't know which one you're referring to.
The one with the color of Lazio and the behaviors of Juventus. So the words for me. So I want to leave a club, but also a league that stay there, not because it's supported by government program like it is now, but because stay there. So like no one now ask why Serie A or La Liga is one of the top league, because they stay in that position, and everyone consider this. This is my target in 5 years' time.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Abhik, we were just talking a little bit before about the fan base. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how is your fan base not only in India but outside of India, and how do you continue growing it?
Yeah, we have a huge fan base here in the Middle East, and in fact, at my hotel yesterday, a big fan group from Riyadh came over to meet me, and especially within Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Qatar, we have a huge diaspora because a lot of people from the state of Kerala, migrate here for jobs, etc. Your club has a big fan base within our state. One of the biggest fan clubs exists there. But it's the passion for football that the state has. And I think a lot of this passion went untapped till the time we came into the picture, 11 years ago. And that's why the support for the club has been so big. And all the fans who are here, in different parts of the world, it connects them back home. And they see it as a way of being there, and it's a part of home for them. And one of the fans yesterday, he said, whenever I come home for a month or so, the first thing I do is I take my kids, I go for a game. And that emotion is very precious, because if you give somebody who's far away from home, and we spoke about capturing emotion in football, the strongest emotion you can give them is a feeling of home. And especially when your team wins, that feeling, I think you want to bottle it, but obviously we can't, but it's and it gives us a huge opportunity. We've been here for pre-season before. We've played a fair few clubs in the Middle East. Gives us a lot of opportunity there as well, because we have a fairly decent turnout whenever we do pre-season here in the Middle East, and we have fans coming out to support us. So I do believe it gives you another opportunity to exploit outside the Indian market. And because it's so nascent, and because Indian clubs are so young, if you have an opportunity like this to extend your reach beyond your normal market, obviously with the more established leagues and more established clubs, we can't go toe to toe with them. But in a way, it gives you a motivation to do more. And for example, we're instituting a new fan board where we want fans from outside the country to come and be on that panel and interact with us, at least 6 times a year. So it gives you the opportunity to have that extension abroad, not just here in the Middle East. There are other pockets as well. But we do believe that with them, we're a bit stronger. And also, wherever they are, they spread the word. So, we're a little better known after that. So it's something which is expanding slowly, and when we see an increase in our international market year on year, but hopefully it goes along that path, and we're able to be as strong outside the country as we are inside.
In terms of Juventus, to come back to you, because I'd love to finish with local club also from Saudi. We started with a club in Saudi. It's important to finish with a club in Saudi also. So, Mike, I wanted to understand a little bit what are the impact you want to have with the social and the media platform at Juventus.
I'd say one part's relevancy and engagement, and the other is commercial. We've been trying to focus on just better understanding the audience segments of fans, not treating them like there's Juventus fans, football fans in the world, and just trying to go after everyone. And so we've done a lot of research, audience segmentation, to break down these fan groups and really ask ourselves, like, what more can we do to grow with different fan segments? And so one example is like kids. Most clubs don't really have a kids media strategy, because Ronaldo is a theme today. I'll bring up one example for us. If you were to guess Juventus' most watched ever YouTube video, you would assume it's Ronaldo. For us, it's a cartoon zebra from a kids animated show that we've created called Team J. It's a show that targets beautifully 5 to 9-year-old kids, that is exceptionally internationally organic, and it's a way for us to connect with a new audience that is totally connected to the club, not just players. And it was, I'd say, an open space that we're continuing to invest in. If you look at teenagers and how, generally speaking, they want to be communicated with and to, we've brought in-house influencers that had followings to run our channels so that we communicate in their tone with their voice. And so our TikTok now is top 10 of all brands worldwide, not just football. So for us, it's always engagement and commercial, but you start with engagement and then commercial comes later. I think it's one with the next following. But really, like, the goal is to just continue to listen and learn to those fan bases or fan groups, understand how diverse they are, and find like new areas where you can connect on a really engaging level and in a new way, and then hopefully that brings in, more engagement for the club and then commercial opportunities later. But that's really the focus that we just keep pressing on.
Appreciate it. James, we've talked about previously in your first answer about the development you're doing right now with Al Qadsiya, with particularly the academy and also the media platform in general. Can you walk us a little bit through those changes you're bringing in?
Sure. I mean, as I said, the organization's focus at the moment is I would say the early execution of the strategy, because we've now just developed it, creating the right organizational structure to support that, and the culture. The culture is really important, whether it's within the dressing room with the players or within the commercial and marketing department. We want everyone to feel that they're part of the family of the club and the direction that we're moving forward. Look, I think one of the focuses on the sporting side, because it's such a competitive landscape, will always be the recruitment. And I think and I don't want to give away too much the recipe of my colleagues, but being very strategic with the markets that they're looking at, the recruitment, being very data-led. And I'm very, very, I think, impressed and optimistic with where that will take us. And I think ultimately being able to build a squad that has value, not only to be competitive in the league, but also for players that may move on to other leagues. I think this has to be part of the league's development over a period of time. So we've got this in our minds. I've spoken about the youth academy. We're developing now an elite academy. We had 4 age groups last season. We've now got 8. So we're adding a lot of support staff around this, psychologists, performance staff, everything you would expect at a high level to create this environment. And again, this will be a slow burn, if you like, but we believe if we've got the right principles and structure in place, that we will develop, hopefully, talents that will flourish in the Al Qadsiya first team, but also in the national team over a period of time. The other area is the off the pitch. I've spoken about the new stadium. This is a huge focus, not only the football revenues, but the football revenues. Trying to see how do we generate revenues, whether that's through concerts, entertainment, the commercialization of our stadium footprint. This is going to be very, very important to us. We brought on board, or are about to bring on board, a new chief commercial officer who will come from the Premier League, so someone with some great experience also to add to the management team. So we've got the short-term focuses, but it's hopefully going to allow us to take these steps in a phased way as we move forward. So a very exciting project, and one that I feel very privileged to be part of.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question. You kind of almost answered it right now, and this will be a 10-second answer. What is the thing you are the most proud of in your current job? Abhik?
I think representing the emotions of a fan base that is emotional about football. Appreciate
it. James?
I think for me, I'm very early in the new job, but I think for me, I'm most proud of the connection that I've been able to make with the people in the club and the unity and the culture that I'm feeling in terms of how we move forward.
I want to steal that answer. That was a great one.
It was a great one, huh?
So I'd say that.
He stole your thunder?
Yeah, but I'd say that. But then also, I mean, for me, I work with my team day in and out. I see them more than any family member. And so we've had some projects lately that I've just seen like the joy and the pride in their eyes. That's, for me, the best part of my job. And so second to what you said, that's what I'd say.
And you, Guido?
what my colleague said. This is typical of Al Nassr, drive the club that has the responsibility to realize in football the vision of this country.
Appreciate it. Gentlemen, I wanted to personally thank you very much for this panel. I also wanted to thank Kabir from the World Football Summit, who's been helping us to put this panel into motion. It's been a real pleasure being here with you today, and I hope we'll have the opportunity to do that again next year. Thank you very much.